Ladies and gentlemen, I am Sanjay Shadiev, owner of KDK Fortis Group, an AI automation agency, as well as the host of this incredible podcast channel. And with me today, Michael Glazer. He is the owner of a very specific company that I'll let him explain what he does in the details in a second. But if you are looking for some other ideas of how to market yourself or go-to strategies of developing a company that potentially has an option of providing service for other companies, this is the podcast for you to stay tuned in and listen. Just get close to the screen. So anyways, Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. And I know probably people are, as they looking at the introduction, listening to this podcast, they're probably asking, is it a Pac-Man in the background?
It is. And it's not a green screen. It's real.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I could change the colors for you. There we go.
Okay, there we go. That's cool. Well, I mean, for people meeting you for the first time, how would you describe what you do and what your company does?
Sure. I'll give you the 30-second rundown because we don't want people to log off of boredom as I sit here describing what we do. But in a nutshell, we are a fieldwork agency, and what we do to help retailers and brands and restaurants improve their customer service. We offer programs like mystery shopping, which entails going into the stores undercover, acting as a regular customer, if such a thing actually exists. And they go in, get service. They have a predefined scenario to follow. They have a survey to fill out, and they report on their findings. And that's mainly what we do all across the US, all across Canada. And also we help brands with merchandising their stores. You know, we could get a call from a national brand that's setting up a bunch of displays in a gas station or in a department store. So we set those up for them. And lastly, we offer brand ambassador programs. So when you walk into a store and someone's offering you a taste of something or a sample or a pamphlet, we do that as well. So it's mystery shopping, merchandising, and brand ambassadors. There you go.
That's amazing. Your company started as a school project, right?
Yeah.
And turned into a long, essentially running business. When did you realize this actually was going to become something real? Something big?
Right away. Yeah, honestly, you know what? The business plan was a school project, no joke. Saw the opportunity, said, hey, this is fun because I'm passionate about customer service. It's something that I always was big on. When I was a kid, I used to send letters, in the mail to companies when there was a problem. So I always was passionate about customer service. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This could work. And then quite quickly, we got our first client, our second, our third. Then there was basically, everyone's always asking me, like, what else do you want to do? What else? And I'm always saying, no, nothing. So 1 year became 5 years, became 20, became 35. And here we still are, 36 now, almost 36.
That's incredible. I think you certainly feel very fortunate to be able to kind of not to go through like, what do I want to do with my life, right? Type of journey.
My mother still asks me when I'm going to get a real job. So how about that?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's how, Mom, I love you, but as long as I'm paying your bills, you're good. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
When people look at a successful business such as yourself, right, from the outside, they usually only see the results, right? But they don't see the journey. They don't see what's taking place behind the scenes. Can you maybe, as an entrepreneur who built a company, provide some maybe a reality check if you want to start a business?
Well, yeah. I mean, the reality is the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. Other than that, you got to put in the work. And I think to some extent, entrepreneurship and starting a business, quote unquote, is often glamorized a little bit too much. People perceive, from what I've seen, oh, the boss does nothing all day. The boss just cashes the checks. It's not like that at all. Anyone who's interested in starting something and growing it, number one, you got to do the research before you start. You can't just have an idea and go ahead, because people often do that. Oh, I found a great idea for a product or a service. I'm going to start a business. And we find out, what are the stats? Like 95% of new businesses fail, 95. If you're willing to do the work, the research, look at what the competition is like, what the market is like, what do people need? And people don't understand how much pricing is important. People think if you buy something for $10 and sell it for $12, wow, I made $2. That's great. But it doesn't work like that, because there's your IT expense and your insurance and your rent and payroll and all that jazz. So a lot of people go into entrepreneurship, I think, with the wrong mindset. And obviously, if 95% are failing, I'm right. There is an issue there. But for people who do have a great idea and they're not scared and not shy to crunch the numbers, look at the market, look what people want. What are the true costs when you add everything together? Anyone could do it. Absolutely.
What if somebody who started the business does not necessarily maybe have an idea of where even to look to develop? Well, I guess with AI, you can find everything online today, right? Give me just a simple prompt, just give me a true color, what it takes to run this type of business. Give me a cost. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically speaking, first of all, when you're starting a business, the two main numbers to look at are your overhead and your margins. You know, you can have slim margins. That I mean, my grandfather was in the meat packing business, one of the biggest meat packing companies in Canada. His margins were like less than a penny. He would buy a cattle or a trainload of cattle, and it's a commodity, so it's the margins, but the volume is huge, so that makes sense. For others, okay, maybe might not have that volume, but you got to look at your overhead. You have a great idea for, I don't know, a chapstick or whatever, a water bottle, whatever's on you want to sell bottles of water? And I got one right here. That's great. So, oh, wow, cost of manufacturing them is 80 cents. I sell them for $1. But the factory, the people, the employees, the machines, the trucks. So you really have to figure all this out before starting. And I think if more people actually did that, you wouldn't see a 95% fail rate of new businesses. So it's all about doing the homework. That's what my thought is.
It's essentially knowing, even if you sell your product now with maybe one or two customers, are you really underselling your product in case if you need to invest in other projects such as, marketing, such as payroll, new software to run the behind scenes type of business or software, right? If you try to go in the market with the cheapest of the cheapest, you're essentially going to get burned
Yeah.
once you get to a high volume.
Exactly. And I think it's very important for people to realize as well that, you see, when it comes to prices, nowadays, what's interesting in the marketplace is because of the internet and because of
Yeah.
the ease of acquiring goods and services, you really have to be careful with price. You really do. So you got to crunch the numbers, you got to look at them. And look, there are plenty of successful businesses. Absolutely. Just because 95% fail doesn't mean you're going to be one of the 95%. Just please do the homework, look at the numbers. And I think the biggest issue, even above the pricing and the research, what I've seen with a lot of new business owners, new entrepreneurs, they confuse investment, money that they get from their parents or from family or from an outside an angel investor. They confuse that with revenues and profits. So you have an idea for a business, someone gives you a check for $100,000 to get started.
Mm-hmm.
Where I see a lot of problems is that people treat that $100,000 as if it's money they made and they spend it. They get a chair for the office, for their desk, a $400 Herman Miller chair, gorgeous top of the line MacBook. They buy all this stuff because, wow, I just got $100,000, not realizing that at the beginning is not the time to buy the $400 chair, is not the time to buy a brand new MacBook, So I think as long as people understood that money that you initially get, it's not for frivolous things. Use it where it's needed to make the products, make the service, advertising, manufacturing, all that jazz. So I see that a lot. Oh, I have a business now. I could buy the top of the line foldable iPhone 18. Really? No. So those are my thoughts.
It's awesome you highlighting that, because I see it very often. Business owners start a business because they're very passionate about the service or a product they're actually wanting to start a business selling. Okay. But they quickly realize there's other expenses necessary for you to operate, so that gives you time to actually go and do what you want to do, which is sell your products or service. Can you maybe talk from that angle? What are the biggest mistakes you've seen entrepreneurs make when they jump into too quickly without maybe even setting up the foundation to be able to grow fast or just to grow?
It's a great question. I think I'm very fortunate because it was a school project that got
Mm,
this started. So I had the professor who was an entrepreneur in his own right. He would make us do it properly. Let's do a SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. Let's do that. Let's make some pro forma income statements for the next 10 years. And
mhm,
let's see how that, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Now let's work backwards, surveying potential customers, looking at the landscape, all those things that you're supposed to do, we did because I had to get grades for this project. So I had no choice. It would have been very cool if I just did it without any of that and said, oh, I'm going to sell this. So buy it for 10 and sell it for 15. Great. But because I was forced to do the actual business plan and to speak to potential customers and competitors and look at the landscape and examine the pricing and everything else, I think that was a solid foundation. So that is, and there's no secret to this. You could go to ChatGPT and say, I need a business plan. What are the 15 chapters that I need? You'll get a list. This
yeah, yeah, yeah.
analysis, that if you decide to not follow it and go register your name and buy your MacBook and get started, good luck. If you say, hey, I'm going to make this business plan, I want to see if this is viable or not. I want to see if there's potential to pay all the bills at the end of the quarter. Do it properly, take the time, make that business plan, look at the numbers, and be realistic about it. And you know what? It may not work. You may have a great idea, run the numbers, and then say, this is not going to work. The operating costs are too high, or oh my God, people think, for example, getting a product in a grocery store is, oh, I have a good idea for an energy drink, no problem. Good luck getting into a Circle K or into a Walmart or a Costco. It doesn't work like that.
No,
So you got to really understand the market.
yeah. And just the licensing alone, right? Just to get that
Mhm.
product in there, it's absolutely, yeah, crazy. I know I always chuckle when I hear people make a comment such as, I am self made success. Without truly understanding, there's a certain amount of people had an impact on your thought process, whether spending time with you, whether it's just giving you advice and you happen to be the individual that actually kind of on faith went and applied it and created success. And I know you and I chatted about that specific subject about having a mentor in your life,
Yes.
right? Can you maybe highlight, right, why it's so important? Because I know a lot of people, again, I go back to calling themselves self-made multimillionaire, but they're realizing that you've been very fortunate because you had some people impacted you and mentored you as you became successful, right?
Absolutely. And but back to that stat we said earlier that 90% of
Right.
businesses fail.
Uh-huh.
What I read was, and I don't know if it's true, but what I read was one of the greatest indicators of success for a new business is if the entrepreneur had a mentor. That is really what is the number one factor that determines failure from success. And I think it's so important because even if you follow your ChatGPT business plan and do all that jazz, if you find a seasoned entrepreneur, it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, it could be an executive, what have you, to sit down with them for half an hour every 2 weeks or once a week or whatever it is, and they look at things from a very objective angle, they can really point out this is probably not going to work. I want to know more about this. They're going to be honest because a lot of times if you bring an idea to a family member and say, "Oh, I got this great idea for a new whatever," they're going to encourage you. "Oh, that's so good, honey. That's great. That's fantastic." But you go to an executive, an entrepreneur, and you say, "Hey, here's my idea." They're not going to be shy to say, you got to change this. Did you think about that? Did you think about this? So yes, having other people around like mentors is very important. And also having a partner is a good idea. I've always learned that having a smaller piece of a bigger pie is not a bad idea. So instead of keeping 100% of the business to yourself, if you're 50-50 partners, you could work on each other's skills. One person's usually good with the numbers and the finance and the math. One guy's more creative. One lady's a great sales rep. One's a good a good bookkeeper or what have you. So having a group is not a bad idea. Going about it alone could be difficult.
You know what I realized? I spoke to a lot of successful people, and what I mean successful financially throughout my life. And what really stood out to me and impressed me is, because when that they all are open sharing how they created success. And if you show them that you genuinely want to take their advice seriously, there's actually the potential for mentorship is a reality there. And I've noticed that the guys, seriously, did people think, oh my gosh, he's successful, he's not going to waste time just mentoring me? Can you maybe talk about that people should be actually pursuing that seriously than just you recommending and sharing those stats? Actually, it's a big deal. And how people actually should be looking at it as the must, as not just maybe I need a mentor. And what should they look in the mentor? How they can identify a right mentor?
It's a good question. I wish I had the right answer, but I would say nowadays there are a lot of groups for that. There are entrepreneurship groups. You could find them online. There really are a lot of them out there. I mean, back in the day when I started the business, there was no internet. So my mentor was my professor. That's it.
Wow.
Outside of my little city, how are you going to contact anyone? Fax machine, you know? So nowadays with the internet, there are groups and groups. And yeah, people do share this stuff. My pleasure to share with people 100%. And I think a lot of people who have done well in business do like to share some of that with others. Like you said, I don't see a lot of people holding the cards close to the vest, but really getting out there and helping for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Makes total sense. Let's just transition to more of a businesses that can last, right? Because obviously you've been in business for many years already. I'm sure you faced some challenging times. I'm sure you had to make some crazy decisions that looking back, you're probably like, wow, I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I did this because I don't know if I would have a business still if I did not do that. What are the few things they need to get right if an entrepreneur actually wants a business that's going to last long term outside of knowing your overhead costs, knowing some of the things that they need to have in place before they starting the business?
I think the ability to pivot and innovate, those are important abilities to do. If you are stuck, designing that water bottle and your factory is tooled for that water bottle, they're going to be made of aluminum and they're going to be this size. We're going to sell this energy drink. If all of a sudden, whatever could happen, up in Canada, from what I'm hearing in one of the provinces, they're banning energy drink sales in a couple months to anyone under 18.
Wow.
So that's gonna hurt the market so badly.
Absolutely.
So if you're in that niche, if you're, in that province of Quebec selling energy drinks and that law hits, well, you better have a backup plan. Maybe we could fill the bottles with orange juice. I don't know what you could do, but you have to have that ability to deal with things that change in the market, legislative changes, customer preference changes. Like for us, we were always a mystery shopping company. That's what we did. But then when clients were starting to notice that their displays were not set up nicely in the stores, they needed a company to fix the displays, to install the displays, to move the displays. So bingo, we went from mystery shopping to merchandising, which now I think we're doing more merchandising than mystery shopping.
Kidding,
actually.
really?
So
Wow.
you have the ability to do that, and that's just one example. But being able to be nimble, to pivot, that I think is very important.
Yeah, yeah, you just be flexible, right? Especially with the AI is moving so quickly. How are you scaling your business today, right? And we can certainly save that conversation in a few minutes. But I want to talk about as far as like what do new business owners usually underestimate when actually starting a business or at least growing the business from, let's say, maybe hiring perspective or pricing operations perspective or marketing. What would you say one of those underestimation is so evident to you seeing business owners starting their businesses?
The amount of hours you have to work. That's it. That's it.
Well, that's given, right?
Not necessarily. People think, the boss just sits there all day. I mean, I got to my desk at about 5:45 a.m. That's when I sat down. I woke up early, sat down 5:45. I'll stop working at about 9 o'clock at night. This is even 35 years into it. Not because I have to be there. Oh, I don't have a good team. I can't delegate. No, it's because there are always things that happen. So be prepared. It's a lifestyle. It's not just it's like they say the difference between a job and a career. In a job, you say, man, is it 5 o'clock yet? In a career, you say, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock already.
Yeah.
So that's it,
It's so true. I was sitting last night at like 12 o'clock at night and just thinking of certain things. My wife was like, are you going to go to bed or not? Right? Like,
exactly.
You don't get it, honey. I feel like I haven't done anything today, right? But
Yep.
What about risk? And I know that's a big fear factor for a lot of entrepreneurs, right? How do you think about risk and when you're making business decisions? Yeah.
Risk is necessary, absolutely. I tend to be a very risk-averse person. I just am by nature, always have been.
Mhm.
So I probably could be that much more successful if I would take more risks, but I don't like stress. I like peace. So if I'm going to take a risk, oh, I'm going to buy this factory for $4 million, or oh, I'm going to do that. Like it's stressful. So me
Absolutely.
personally, I don't like taking a lot of risks. I do things slowly, calculated. I may miss out on some good opportunities, absolutely, but that's just me.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't have to work from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. if I took more risks, but that's just my take. And the same thing with my investments. Even when I was a kid, you have $100 to invest, buy a stock with it, which could go up or down or zero, or GIC, make your 5% and leave it. I'm a GIC guy. I just am. I know people are going to say that's not cool and silly and you're missing out. But yeah, I'm a very, and even, same thing with respect to a lot of business owners. I've seen this. They play around with the numbers. They, do not shady things, but iffy things. Then the government calls. Oh, it's time for an audit. And they are freaking
Freaking
out.
out. Yeah.
For me, we've been audited about 5 or 6 times.
No kidding.
Zero freak out. They're a pain. They're not fun. They take up a lot of time. Government could call tomorrow, IRS, CRA, we're going to do an audit. No stress.
Yes.
No stress. So that's just my opinion. Not good for everybody, but it's good for my blood pressure. It's good for whatever hair I have left. So that's my theory.
Yeah, that's great, man. Can we talk about AI? I know I have a few minutes left. Do you think AI is going to change the way business owners operate? I know in your specific industry, it's such a high touch type of service, but obviously a business owner is a business owner. You obviously seeing how the environment and infrastructure is changing on a daily basis for business owners. So what is your opinion on that?
I think AI is a fantastic tool. Just remember, it is a tool. Okay. That's what it is. It's like a hammer. With a hammer, you can build a house or you could hit someone on the head and kill them. It's a tool. And AI is a tool. You could use it for good. You could use it for bad. From what I see, above all else, it's a time saver. A lot. Now, again, like you said, our industry is very high touch. No matter how sophisticated an AI agent or LLM can be, at the end of the day, if we have to do mystery shops in 5,000 stores, you still got to drive there. You got to get in, you get your service,
Yeah.
you do the interaction, you got to write up your survey. Yes, AI can help, but you still got to do all the work. So for us, unlike a graphic design firm or a legal firm, accounting, consulting, AI could turn those on their head. For us, it's fairly limited because the work is done in person. But even for us, it's just such a time saver. I think of the menial tasks we used to have to do that would take hours, from polishing a PowerPoint to routing out 1,000 stores to creating nice instructions for the mystery shoppers. Up until a couple months ago, that was all by hand. And it took a long
No
time.
way. Wow. Not a
Yeah. And
couple of
now,
years ago. You're talking about a couple of months ago.
yeah, when did people start installing Claude on their PCs? It wasn't
Just
years
recently.
ago.
Yeah, agentic level was not even a thing under 18, 24 months ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to see
Wow.
it being used is it's fantastic. Of course, it kind of sucks if you're someone who trained for those skills, like all the people who were told, learn to code. You'll be able to learn to code. That's your key. Yeah. And
That's crazy.
they're out of work. It's terrible. And a lot of juniors as well, like junior accountants, even graphic design. Used to have, if you wanted a poster, an ad, a sign, a trade flyer, you would have to hire a graphic designer, go back and forth. Nowadays, with a good solid prompt, you
Yeah.
could get pretty good work. Not amazing work, right? I don't think ads by McDonald's or Walmart are designed by ChatGPT. They got experts there who are amazing graphic designers, but at a smaller level, to be able to put in a prompt and get a beautiful colored one-page flyer, that's huge. Or for us doing the routes, like that's a big thing we have to do. We got to rent a couple trucks, go across the country, install some fridges for displays. That would have taken hours. Do we use a hub approach? Do we go direct? How many trucks do we rent? All nowadays, you put it in AI.
That's right.
Here are your options. Fantastic.
Yes. You've been in business for many, many years. You've seen the bad, the good, and the ugly. If you could give one lesson to someone starting a business today, what would it be?
Don't. No, just kidding. Get a real job, like my mother says. Get a real job.
That's funny.
I think the most important thing I'd say is don't over glamorize it. It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing it. Absolutely not. I mean, it's wonderful to be an entrepreneur, but I see social media, these people waving around their $100 bills, making it rain, it's not like that. And maybe in some circles it is, but for the most part, the people I know, the ones that do open a store, open a restaurant, open a law firm, whatever it is, be prepared to work. Be prepared. And you know what? As an entrepreneur, you should be the last person to leave the office, not one of your employees. And you should want to get there first before your employees. So I think there's this over glamorization of be your own boss. But the other thing to think about is, yeah, I'm my own boss, but I've got about 50 clients. I've got 50 bosses. If you work in a company, you got one boss to deal with. I could get requests, positive feedback, negative feedback, crazy deadlines from about 50 different people in any given day. So just be prepared for the reality of it and have fun.
But obviously, the ROI can be a lot more money, a lot more choices financially. Yes, it can be lonely, but the things you're going to discover about yourself as an entrepreneur is so beautiful.
Yes, definitely. And also with the money, sometimes there are some months when times are slow. My leadership, I see everyone's salary, obviously. They make more than me some months. It happens. You have expenses. So again, it's just, I'm coming at this from a perspective of I'm in the trenches. I've been doing this for 3 decades. I see businesses start and fail and collapse and expand. What I'm seeing online is just this. I think it's false, by the way, where start your own business, sign up for this course, and you're going to be a millionaire. It's not like that. So be realistic about it and try to have fun. Be passionate about what you're going into. If you don't like energy drinks, don't open a business selling energy drinks. If you're a car freak and you love cars, open a garage. Why not? Whatever it is. So be passionate about what you're doing, because if you are, you never have to work a day in your life, if you think about it.
Thank you so much, Michael. This has been fantastic. And viewers, if you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a quick like so we can continue producing these top amazing podcasts. And I'll sure I have Michael's website in the description. So please reach out to him if you have any questions. Absolutely tremendous podcast episode. Thank you so much, Michael. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.